So you've decided you want to make an automatron like this, or something like it. You can see from the background on my Google sheet right there, all the images. There's lots and lots of different variations, various complexities. Mine has 3 cams inside that are kind of opposite each other, that are driving the wings and the body up and down. But you can see some of them are more simple, just pulling its head off the teddy bear or rocking a horse, and some, of course, are more complex. It's going to be up to you. But all of these start with a basic sort of case. All right, some of the cases are closed in, like mine. Mine is completely closed. I'm sorry, I should have this camera like this. It's completely closed in. But many of them are open. Okay, but we're going to start with something like this. It's a closed-in case. It's got finger joints. It looks like it might be hard to do, but you'd be surprised. It's actually really, really easy. So let's just go ahead and get started. Let me pause it, and I'll switch screens, and I'll be joining you in a second. Okay, so to get started, all we have to do is we have to come up with a way to make a simple box or a case like this with the finger joints. It's really actually easy. What we want to do is we want to go find a site called MakerCase. And then from there, select, for example, a simple box. Okay, so everything that we deal with in the lab is going to be in millimeters, all of the equipment. So please make sure it's set to millimeters. And the box that I've been using right here, which you may have a different size, but this one here is 100 by 100 by 100. So it's real simple. So we're going to make this 100 millimeters. Whoops, 100 by 100 by 100. Okay, and this is going to be important. The material, the wood that we're going to be using is going to be 1/4-inch ply. All right, which actually ends up being in reality a little less than that. Turns out it's really close to 5 millimeters. So we do have to choose a custom thickness and set that to 5 millimeters. Okay, and then I don't want a completely closed box. I want to be able to at least see and work with my mechanisms. So I'm going to choose an open box. And then, like I said, we chose finger joints, or at least I did. So I'm going to choose a finger joint box. And then what I want to do is I want to come up with a finger size, which is kind of easy and strong. Not too many, you know, you can get crazy. I'm going to choose something like that. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to download my box plans. And I don't really want to have the writing on here, so I'm going to disable the labels. And then I'm going to download my DXF. Okay? And you can see I've done a bunch of these, so it's going to be box 12. All right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a LibreCAD, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder and our new file. And then what I want to do is I want to open my newest download, box 12. Okay. So here we go. Now we need to make a space for the crank. Okay? And the crank goes all the way through from one side to the other. So since our box is actually going to be, you know, this is going to be the bottom, okay, or the back, which normally would have been the bottom of an open box. We want this to be our back, and a left and a right side, and a top and a bottom. So let's assume this is our back. Okay, this is our back panel. That makes these to be our left and right, top and bottom. As long as you stay with the uniformity, remember the way I've designed it, it's a square. It really doesn't matter, but I just want to make sure that I choose the same two. So take a look at this. This and this are a match, and this are a match. So I'm going to choose these two as my left and right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a reference line, and I'm going to choose from intersection to intersection, and I want to go from here to there, and I'm going to escape that. And here to there, and I'm going to escape that. Okay. So now I've made my sort of reference line. So now I need to make a hole in the middle of these two boxes. That'll be for my axle for my crank. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to need my calipers and whatever size rod. Now in this case, I'm using what's called a 3/16 dowel rod. There's a good chance you're going to be using a 1/4 inch dowel rod, but this is a 3/16. Okay? And you really need to make sure you grab a caliper to figure out the exact size you want. So I'm going to measure this with my caliper, and it turns out to be about 4.95 millimeters. So I think what I want to do is I want this axle to be able to spin as I turn the crank, so I want it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say 5 millimeters. I think that'll be okay. So I'm going to choose the circle tool, and I think I want it to be in the middle, and I want it to be right there. Okay, snap in the middle of that line. So 5 millimeters, that's a 2.5 radius, so 2.5 is when I enter in the keyboard, enter, and once again 2.5, enter. Okay, so now what I can do is escape that, and I can delete that, and now I have my two holes for my crank. Okay, so now we need to talk about the top. So one of these is going to be the top, one is going to be the bottom. I'll choose this one to be the top. They're identical. You can choose which either one. In the case of my butterfly, I've actually got 3 different holes, and I've chosen one for the body and one for each of the wings. So I want them to be kind of uniform, all right, so that when I crank my crank, it turns out real nice. The center one's super easy. I'm going to choose a 2-point line. And again, I think I'll go from middle to middle. Okay? Escape. So that means that it should be super easy to find the center of this just by choosing middle again. And I'm going to put it right there. And I want it to be, again, able to move. So I'm going to say 2.5, which is a 5 millimeter hole. And then what I want to do is I want one kind of in the middle between here. So I think I'll choose another 2-point line, and I'll go from the middle of this to the middle of that. Escape that. And once again, I'm going to choose my circle, and I'm going to put it there, and that's going to be 2.5. And I'm going to repeat that process again. A 2-point line, boom, boom, escape, and then I'm going to go with the center point and 2.5, enter. Okay. And now I can just delete all this reference material because I no longer need it. Alright, so now I have the box frame. I've got the hole for my axles, and I've got my 3 holes for the top. So now I just need to make a couple other pieces. Let me pause just briefly, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about on this video is, so I want my rods to be going up and down straight in this case. Now this may or may not be your case, okay? It may be that you want to have your rods be able to swing back and forth or move at an angle depending on your design. But in my case, I really wanted them to go straight up and down, okay? So I have a nice, movement that's kind of linear, which meant that I wanted this to be thicker, okay? If it's too thin, the rods can angle left and right. So I decided I wanted to make it about 3 layers thick. So to do that, it was really simple, actually. What I did is I simply took this and selected it, and then I went to here to move copy, and then I chose a reference point. I'm going to go ahead and switch it to grid, And I'm going to just choose, it doesn't really matter. You know, you just have to choose a point. You know, let's go for center. We'll put it right in the center of one of these spots. Okay? But now I need to choose a grid. I'm going to put it up here. Just need a place to work. Okay? And I do want to keep the original and make a copy right up here. Okay. So now you can see I've got that, and it's perfectly positioned. So all I really want to do is make a nice sort of box around it. So I can choose a rectangle, and I'm going to choose my grid spacings. And I'm just going to go like this, and like that. Make it symmetrical. Okay. And then I want to give it a nice rounded edge. Like, I don't know if you can see it with the video here, but I have a nice rounded edge. So I choose for that. I went here, and I went with fillet. And I'm going to need to make my radius relatively small. I'll say 4 millimeters. And then I'm going to click here. And you got to kind of play with it. There we go. Until it snaps. And do the same thing there. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finessing to get that to work. Okay. Try that again. Fill it. Dang it. I'm having more trouble than normal. There we go. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to make 2 of these. So once again, I'm going to go copy. Oops, I should have selected it. Select it all. And then we're going to copy it. I'll choose a reference point. And then I'm going to make another copy right there. And I'm going to keep the original. Okay. There you go. So now you've got everything you need to make the box. So the next video, I'm going to talk about making the cam and the crank. Okay. So we can make our mechanism. And then finally, in the last video, we'll talk about making your structure on the top. But that may be very different from what you decide. But I'll show you how to make something like this butterfly. All right, I will see you all again really soon.